Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina istafa amma ba'd. Fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ya'lamu kha'inatal a'yuni wa ma tukhfis sudur. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun alal mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. ربي يسر ولا تؤسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين. ربي زدني علما. Ya Fattah, Ya Fattah, Ya Fattah. Alhamdulillah, by grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are back in our session or rather in an effort to prepare for this beautiful month of Ramadan that is approaching us very fast. Month of Shaban is a very special month. Month of Shaban is like the like the time of the Tahajjud. This is the time when you know that the dawn is about to come. You can start feeling the change in the atmosphere. There's a slight, mild temperature. Even in the peak summers, the temperature round about the time of the Tahajjud, just prior to dawn, is always the most pleasant temperature. Then the darkness is starting to take a different color. The shades start changing. And there is a change in the overall situation. If you ever get to be outdoors, out of the city lights, and observe the skyline as it changes when it's, when you're entering into Fajr and then entering into dawn, it's a very beautiful, very serene effect. And Shaban is like that. And that is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would also fast a lot in this month of Shaban. I also mentioned it during our Friday's bayan as well, that Shaban, Rasulullah ﷺ would fast so much, it comes in Hadeeth that at times the Sahaba would think that he would probably fast all the way into Ramadan. And then at times he has not fasted at all in Shaban, which goes to show that, it is not mandatory to fast in Shaban, but if you do, it's a good thing. It's all about getting yourself into that mood, getting yourself into that mindset. Those who run a marathon, if they are to run a 20k or a 50k, they would never run 50k before the marathon itself. They would run 10k, 20k if they're running a 50k, but they would save the 50k for the event itself. But to get into that mindset, to get into that mood, they would go and do this full dress rehearsal of doing a 20k or a 10k as it may be. And that's what it is. If we start fasting right now, because fasting is not just about getting used to not eating. Fasting is also about putting a control on a number of things, putting a control on all the things that take away the nur. Because what fasting brings, and what Ramadan specifically brings, is that it brings nur. I start off every lecture with this little reminder that why we are doing this, so that we are focused on what we are here to achieve. We are here to achieve the objective of Ramadan, which is taqwa. And that taqwa is linked with that nur that accumulates in our heart, that nur that comes down on our heart, that nur that is showering in the month of Ramadan. It is the nur that gives strength to our ruh. It is the nur that elevates our ruh. It is the nur that brings us closer, that helps us discern the right from the wrong. ये वो रोशनी है जो कि हमें हक और बातिल के दरमियान फर्क करना सिखाती है. And we want to retain this nur. We don't want this nur to get leaked out. And it gets leaked out very quickly, very easily, because there are holes in our hearts. Where this nur comes is our heart, in our qalb. It's not the physical heart that we are talking about, it's the spiritual heart. It comes in our spiritual heart. And if there are holes in our spiritual heart, then it would stay for a while, because there's a shower that is happening. If you put a bucket with holes under a flowing water, the water would get retained in the bucket, but it would get leaked out very quickly as well, depending upon how big the hole is and how many holes there are. But if there is no hole, then the water would stay in there. Our hearts are like that buckets. We need to make sure that the holes that are in our hearts are blocked out, and there is nothing that's leaking out of it. And what causes the holes to be there in our hearts? Our sins. Our sins. And this is what we have started talking about 3 lectures or 2 lectures from today. First lecture we spoke about the ill effects of sins and what it does to us and how badly it affects us. And then in the previous section we went into a bit of detail and we spoke about what exactly are sins. And in that we said that sins, as what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to do, is to leave the sins that are apparent, which are outwards, and the sins which are inwards. So we should leave both kinds of sins, the outward sins and the inward sins. So the outward and the inward sins, both of them we have to leave. How do we leave? What are these outward sins? What are these inward sins? We went into a bit of detail that in the outward sins there are 2 kinds of sins in there in itself. One are the sins which we do when we have been asked not to do them, and other are the sins which we don't do when we have been asked to do something. And then in that we looked at, in the last session, the sins that we have been asked to do but we don't do. There were 2 in them. One was salah and the other was spending in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We spoke at length about salah, but we did not speak about spending in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will not, because we will link it with the things that we have to do in the month of Ramadan, and otherwise inshallah we'll combine it collectively over there. Now may Allah give Jazai Khair to one of the brothers who puts in the effort to, despite not knowing anything about graphics, which you can tell about the work he does, but he still puts in the effort to do the graphics for me. So on the YouTube recording of the previous session, he drew the mind map of what I just spoke about, so that there's a pictorial representation of this flow chart, so that's easier to understand. So if you haven't seen that, see that, because then it becomes very easy to comprehend what am I talking about, the types of sins and the different categories of sins. Now, why is it that we first spoke about the things that we have been asked to do but we don't them? And in specific, salah. Namaz, salah, is one of those things which acts as a guard. Namaz deen ka dhal hai. We have often say that in Urdu. Salah is a guard. It's basically, if you think about it, it is a protective layer. If you visualize your body, then around your body there's a protective layer, and that protective layer which is guarding you from shaitan, from the provocation of your nafs, is your salah. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said that inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar, that indeed salah stops you from doing wrong things and from indecency. Salah stops us because it is a layer which basically guards us. So for us, what is better than cure? Prevention is better than cure. So salah is a preventive layer that is there, that if we are maintaining our salah, our inclination to do wrong, the things that we have been asked not to do but we do, our inclination to do things which we are not meant to do would automatically subside. That is why first salah is very important. That is why we have to make sure that our salahs, there's a tick mark. The one who has done Fajr is under the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ki hifazat mein aa jata hai Fajr padhne wala. Every salah has its benefits, and we have to make sure that all those benefits, we are benefiting from them, we are utilizing them, we are gaining the maximum out of them. We do that makes it easier from the next thing that we have to do when avoiding sins, which is not doing the things that we have been asked to stay away from. And how and where do we end up those things is what we are going to talk about today. So, if our salah is not giving us that level of protection right now, or if despite that protective layer, internally we are so weak that we keep on doing things, then what it does is we keep on doing things which we are not meant to do. Then what it does is that it blackens our heart, the spiritual heart, the heart that we are trying to get ready for Ramadan to receive the Noor. It gets blackened with every sin that we do. Rasulullah said that with every sin there is a black dot that appears on our heart, and that black dot keeps on increasing till the entire heart becomes black. And at that point in time, then there is no Noor that helps it. The polish for removing that blackness is Tawbah. But where you and I want to head, we don't even want there to be any black hole. And this is what we need to prepare for. And we cannot think that what I end up doing will have no effect, nobody would come to know about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what we do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is well aware of it. And these things, whether we feel them or not, they have an effect on our spirituality. And we have to make sure that what we are trying to achieve, it does not become an obstacle in that. Yahan tak baat samajh mein aa gayi? If we understand this point that the heart gets affected because of the sins that we do, then the next thing to understand is that the impact on the heart happens because of certain doors. There are certain inputs that lead or that act as a pathway to those black holes appearing on our heart. We have to be mindful of those doors, we have to be mindful of those windows that bring that blackness onto our hearts. Just like if I know that there is a window in my room, and when there is a dust storm in the way, I must close that window, otherwise my entire room would be full of dust. Likewise, we need to be mentally conscious that there are windows, that there are doors that bring blackness onto my heart, and I need to be mindful of closing those windows so that I can protect my heart from getting that black dot or from getting a puncture, because every sin also acts as a puncture which leads to your Noor getting leaked. What are those doors? Those doors are these body organs, because the things that we have been asked not to do and we do them, they don't happen automatically. They happen through our body parts. And there are different body parts that play a role in getting those things done which we are not meant to do. What are those different body parts? There are ears, there are eyes, there are tongue, there are stomach or mouth, there are hands, there are private parts, there are feet. All of these Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mentioned would be questioned. All of these would have to have an answer. They would have to be answerable for what they do. They have to be answerable for how we have been using them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the ears, the eyes, the heart, they all will have to give answer for what they have done. They all will have to give answer for what they have done. It is not that any one of them will get away from it, and there will be no questioning from them. All of them will have to answer what they have done, and they will have to give the reasoning of why they had done it. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention the ears first? It's very interesting. In the human body, the first thing that gets developed in a baby, the first organ that gets developed in a baby, and the facial, are the ears as well. And ears are something that act as a prelude to doing the next step, the next sin. You hear about something, now it intrigues you. Now you want to know, so this was something that sounds nice. What did it look like? So hearing something leads you to now wanting to seeing it. Hearing something triggers imagination, triggers thoughts, triggers feelings, triggers emotions. And that is why music has such a negative impact on people as well. Because what does music do? Music provokes emotions. I'm sure every one of you who is listening to this would have some soundtrack which triggers some kind of emotion. And if nothing else, the national anthem provokes, अगर if you're माशाल्लाह दूध के धुले हुए हैं, किसी ने कोई म्यूजिक नहीं सुना हुआ, तो कौमी तराना, national anthem, brings out a patriotic sense out of us. Dil Dil Pakistan in the cricket match makes you feel that you have conquered the world, right? So that music has a very strong effect on triggering emotions. The music industry itself claims that majority of the songs that are written today either provoke illicit relationship or entice people towards sex or have some kind of romantic intonations in them. This is all researchable material that you can find. This is what they do. When in our marketing class, I remember we were taught that the superstores, they spend millions on research as to what kind of music played in which aisle would result in better and faster selling of a product, because that music would instigate you to buy things quickly, would pump you, would make you. So music instigates a lot of things. But ears are not just about music. I'm just using music because that's a common thing that we use for ears. But ears have another role to play as well. The way we use our ears when we listen to others people backbite, when we listen to filth, when we listen to useless stuff, when we pay heed to conspiracies, when we pay attention or we allow ourselves to be pulled into something which we know is only half-baked thing and there's no evidence to prove it, it affects our mentality. And that is why in Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us that we should not even have tajassus. We should not, wala tajassasu. Do not be inquisitive. Because when you start becoming inquisitive, the next thing you do is you start scratching the surface to find out, what's going on. You start looking for dirt when it doesn't exist. So protecting our ears, making sure that we do not listen to the irrelevant stuff. We do not listen to things which have nothing to do with us. We protect ourselves from not being bothered about, issues which we have nothing to deal, where we have no input or we have no power of changing anything. That's protecting your ears. Being mindful of what you're doing. Another thing that ears do is that when you enter into, a very easy way to understand this. Who's the only person who spoke with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya? Musa alayhi salam. And who's the only person who demanded that, Ya Allah, I want to see you? Musa alayhi salam. That's what ears do. When you listen to a voice, the next thing you automatically want to do is you want to see it. So all these young boys who say that, I just speak to her, we are just friends. Oh, WhatsApp. Then WhatsApp becomes, I don't know what's the app that they use these days for talking. But, and then after talking, then the cameras get switched on. So it's just a gradual thing. Listening leads to the next thing, which is seeing. So you got to be mindful that, you stop it at that point. Remember, as far as the sins are concerned, our deen is beautiful in its process of eliminating sins. And the process is that nab the evil in the bud. बात को जहां से वो शुरू हो रही है वहां ही खत्म कर दो ताकि अगले स्टेप पे जाए ही ना. It should not go to the next step. There should be no cause for it to come to a point jahan pe where you have to think what to do now. So stop it with the ears as much as you can. Guard your ears. Guard your ears. The next thing are your eyes. And eyes, they have the power to play havoc with you. Eyes, they are the biggest gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Agar hum sochein for a minute, if we think that if we do not have eyesight, na'uzubillah, what would the life be like? How many things in this dunya would simply stop mattering for us just because we don't have the eyes? Any cheezein, they will just not be there. It is the biggest ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it is also a ni'mat which can cause a lot of problems. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has clearly said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows any wrong that we do with our eyes. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورُ. And He knows the treachery of the eyes. Allah knows the treachery of the eyes. The sins that are done by the eyes are so harmful because nobody else knows that you're sinning. I'm walking with you, both of us are walking together. You do not know where my eyes are going. Even if we are both looking at something, you don't know what am I looking in at that thing that we are looking at. But Allah knows. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that what is the wrong that we have done with our eyes. And when it comes to eyes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to keep our eyes off two things. One, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that وَلَا تَمُودَنَّ عَيْنَكَ إِلَى مَا مَتَعْنَا بِهِ أَزْوَاجًا مِّنْهُمْ زَهْرَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. That never stretch your eyes towards the things we have given to some groups of them to enjoy. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not keep your eyes on the wealth, on the luxuries, on the comforts, on the ease, on the cars, on the villas, on the high profiles. Do not keep your eyes on the ease of others, because all of this that they might, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Zahrat al-Hayat al-Dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may have given them to them because He wants them to test them. لِنَفْتِنَهُمْ فِيهِ. Because we may have given all of this to them to test them. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives comes with khair. وَرِزْقُ رَبِّكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. What you have been given may already have khair in it. And this is a very common thing with us. If you all reflect on us, we are always competing. We were 2 class fellows, he has gotten this much, I'm still here, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. He has 2 cars, why do I only have 1 car, he has this. We are always comparing ourselves with others and those who are ahead of us in the worldly sense, in the wealth. We feel that, he has so much more, I need to have that. And that gets us into a rat race which is never ending. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is specifically saying that do not keep your eyes. وَلَا تَمُودَنَّ عَيْنَكَ إِلَى مَا مَتَعْنَا بِهِ أَزْوَاجًا مِّنْهُمْ زَهْرَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Do not let it be. Jisko Allah ne jitna diya hai, usme do not think because he has so much more and he is so comfortable. And this goes both ways. It's not just, some people, they also, They use this, oh, that person, he's already born in the family of a, of a imam or a mufti, so it's so easy for him to follow the deen because they have the right environment, they have the right things. What Allah has given to them may be a test in itself for them. Maybe that person who is born in the family of a mufti, is, and there are so many like those cases where they get attracted with the outside world, and then in the house of a mufti there's somebody who's a rebel. You don't know what is happening at somebody else's places. You are required to keep your eyes on you. Do not let it wander off. Do not get too attracted by dunya and enter into a rat race. And at the same time, do not think that if somebody has something good, it is good. Because that good may just be a test for them. What is looking good to you may just be a test for them. And Allah knows. And the second thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to do is a command that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given all the men first and then to the women. And this is kullil mu'min, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, kullil mu'minina yaghuddu min absarihim. Ask or tell the believing men to lower their gaze. Kullil mu'minina yaghuddu min absarihim. And it's a very important point. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first asked the men to lower their gaze. And then afterwards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked the women, kullil mu'minati yaghuddunna min absarihinna. And then further on asked them to cover themselves and protect themselves. A lot of feminists, they say that, oh, why should the women cover up? Why can't the men control themselves? And what is wrong and all of that. And I always try to explain this. And I understood this when I got diabetes myself, that this is actually how it works. That when you're a diabetic patient, the first thing the doctor tells you is that please stay away from sweet. As much as you can, stay away from sweet stuff. That's good for you. It is important that you stay away from it. It is for your own benefit that you stay away from it. But the doctor knows that he is a patient. He's a mariz. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says about men that fi qulubihim maradun. In case they are patient. Ye to hain hi bimar. They have an issue in their heart. There's a problem with them. So therefore, the next thing that the doctor would say to your family as a patient, or the family of the patient of diabetes, is that please make sure that in your household there is no easily accessible sweets. So in your kitchen, do not keep easy access biscuits, sweet stuff, so that it's not tempting for him to go and just munch around. He has to put in the effort, because if his things are lying around, he's already weak, he's already a patient, wo to hai bimar. He'll eat something. This is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. The first command is to the men. Kullil mu'minina yaghuddu min absarihim. Ask the believing men to lower their gaze. But then Allah knows that men, they are sick in their heart. There's a sickness, and that sickness is directly because shaitan uses the women as a trap for men. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, as a preventive measure, the woman, please cover yourself up. And this is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what elevates the status of women. This is what gives them such, high status, that, of course, covering themselves is against their fitrah. Their fitrah is to beautify themselves. But then when they cover themselves as per the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it elevates them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unke darajat buland karte. But the command to us, and this is the important command, is that you lower your gaze, control your gaze. Every time we set our eyes on something wrong, it is like a Scud missile that goes and does an explosion. It just destroys the heart. Every wrong, thing that we look at, be it on the screens, be it in person, be it on the billboards, be it on the mobiles, be it on laptops, be it on TVs, be it on cinema, anywhere where you use set your eyes on a non-mahram, you're destroying any nur that may be there in your heart. We have to put in the effort to control our eyes. There are things which are unavoidable. When I started studying, one of the things that we read up was that, I don't recall whose incident this is, but he went to his Shaykh and he said that, look, I can't remember. And he said, think about what you have done. And he said that I was walking by, I was in the bazaar, and I saw a woman was passing by and her ankle was visible. So my eyes, got attracted towards that. So he said that, look, this is what has caused all what you had learned to get wiped out. So do istighfar and make sure that you protect your eyes. And I was always used to think that, they are just talking about the ankles being visible. If we go into the bazaar, Nauzubillah, I don't know what all is visible. So, hum kahan dekhen, upar dekhen, wahan masla, niche dekhen, wahan masla dekhen, to dekhen kahan. It's understandable. We live in a very different time. Things are different. But to what is in our control, what we can control, there's nobody forcing us to look at things when we are on mobile. Is there any compulsion to do that? Is there any compulsion to watch a movie or a cinema or a news or TV drama or anything? There's no compulsion to watch any of that. And all those women that are on that, they are non-mahram. All the men that are on that are non-mahram. Why do we want to destroy? The reason that there is a lot of lack of barakah in our lives is because of what our eyes end up doing. If we try to start protecting our eyes, a lot will become different. And another thing which is very, very important and very thought-provoking is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said right after He asks us to protect our eyes. He says, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفُظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ. Just a second, please. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفُظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ. That tell the believing men to lower their gaze, and then right after that comes and guard their private parts. Think about, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking us to protect our eyes and right after that to guide our private parts? Because जो चीज यहाँ से शुरू होती है वो यहाँ पे निकलती ही निकलती है. What starts over here ends up over there. It's a proven thing. Proven. You will see something, it will trigger a thought process, then you would want to see more of it, and then the eventual नफ्स को ठंड तब तक नहीं पड़ेगी जब तक वो वहां से कोई एक्शन नहीं हो जाएगा. And that is the harm of, that is the first step, where it starts from here and it ends up over there. And that is why the beauty of Quran, the Ijazah of Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights that. He says that you protect lower your gaze, you guard your gaze, and you protect your private parts. So guarding our eyes is extremely important. Now the question comes that how is it, or what is it that we should do to guard our eyes? I asked this to all my friends, that from now, 8th of Shaban till end of Ramadan, leave the internet. Leave the internet by choice. There's internet which is majburi, and there's internet which is by choice. Internet which is majburi is probably the emails that we have to check, or if we have a web store that we have to maintain, or whatever work that we have to do on the internet, that's different. But internet by choice is all our social media, all the Twitters, Instagrams, Facebooks, TikToks and whatnot. This is all internet by choice. A lot of people, they justify that, look, there's so much happening in the world that if I don't stay in tune to that, I do not know what will happen. So I have to keep up to date about what is happening in Ukraine, what is happening in Pakistan politics, what is happening in the economical crisis that may be coming on us, and what is happening, so on, so forth. Yes, it is good to be aware, but everything has a priority. If, God forbid, if the doctor tomorrow tells you that you have cancer, would you still be worrying about Ukraine, or would you be going all heads up on treating your cancer? Simple question. You will not be worrying about Ukraine, you will be fully focused on treating your disease that you have found out. We are like that. This is a disease. We have to realize that the misuse of eyes is a disease. It's a disease that is affecting our heart, that can stop us from achieving achieving the most, or anything for that matter, from the month which is there for our forgiveness. It is so vital that we work towards that if we, for a month and a half, or for that matter 2 months, if we do not go on internet of choice, it will not do us any harm. On your WhatsApp, stop the automatic media download, so that you know that you have the choice to unplay or download any picture or any video that comes to you. But protect your eyes. Guard your gaze. It has a direct effect on your heart. As soon as we see something, it just simply is like we have stabbed our heart, and jo khair uske andar thi, it drains out. And it shows on our faces, it shows everywhere. And the worst it does is that it acts as such a big demotivator factor. There are so many people who come and say that, I feel so demotivated. There's no good in me. There's no khair in me. There's nothing good I can do. Whatever I do, it just simply goes away. Why? Because it started from here, it ended over there. And then there's, you feel so dejected, so demotivated, you don't feel like doing anything. And shaitan simply, wins. So guard your eyes to whatever extent that you can. Go on a war footing in guarding your. That's how serious you need to become about it. That's how serious you need to become. The third thing is your tongue. With the tongue, keep one thing in mind, that the use of the tongue in our life or in our day should be as much as its proportion to the rest of our body. Do you understand? How big is our tongue compared to the rest of our body? It's very small, few inches compared to the many feet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us. That's how much usage that we should have. But our tongues are doing overtime for us. There's a hadith that every morning the rest of the body parts, they plead to the tongue. They say that, please save us, because if you stay sane, if you stay sin-free, the rest of us would be sin-free. If you are sinful, all of us would be sinful. How do we misuse our tongue? Lying. We lie as though it doesn't even matter. We don't even think that it is lying. It's just a joke. Or it was just just for laughs. Try not to lie. Sorry, let me repeat that. Do not lie. Don't try not to lie. Do not lie. Be mindful of what you're saying. Ask yourself, is this the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Ask yourself that question. Get into the habit of pausing before you speak. Let others laugh at you. Yeah, ये तो हर बात कहने से पहले 2 मिनट सोचता है. Be like that. Because you want to make sure that there is nothing that is coming out of your mouth that can be attributed as a sin for you. It cannot be a lie. It should not be a backbiting. It should not be ghibat. It should not be hurtful. It should not be damaging. It should not be an accusation. Because all of these things, when we say something hurtful, and we know exactly when I'm saying something hurtful to the others, at times we deliberately think of a dialogue which we know would be very, very hurtful. Sahi chubega jaake andar. Because we are ourselves hurting so much that we want कि अब मैं ऐसी बात कहूँ उसको कि वो बिल्कुल set हो जाए. When we say something hurtful, the hurt that is inflicted by a tongue is more severe than a wound that is inflicted by the sword. The wound of sword heals, but the hurt that one feels in the heart because of the words said to them stays forever. Stays forever. Be very careful. And the person we hurt most with our tongues, knowingly or unknowingly, our spouses or our parents, depending upon which stage of life you are in. And we need to be very mindful. We need to be very mindful that how am I using my tongue in my household, with our work colleagues, with our bosses, with our outsiders. We are the sweetest people. हमसे कोई अच्छी मीठी जुबान बोलता ही नहीं है. The misuse of tongue starts happening when we are with those who we take for granted. Our siblings, our parents, our wife, our children, our household employees. Then we say things that, without any regard to. And with the tongue also comes the tone that we use. Leja. How harsh we are, how rude we are, how crude we are. These are things which are, they are all hurdles, they are all obstacles. These are all the things which are blocking this thing. It's not that this is more important or this is more important or this is more important. All of them. Because again, if you think of it as an example, it becomes very, very easy. Nowadays we have our mobile phones and they usually have a 4-digit code to unlock them, if not a pattern, right? If you know the 3 digits and you don't know the 4th digit, would you be able to unlock your phone? Can somebody say that, but I know 3 digits? No. You have to know all 4 digits in the right manner, each at its own place, for your phone to become unlocked. Otherwise, it remains locked. You can never present the argument, but I know 3 out of 4, I've done so much effort. It will remain unlocked. Getting to that stage where we are trying to be with Allah also requires that all of these sins are let go. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that let go of all the sins, the apparent and the hidden. Zahir or batin, sabko khatam karna. That is where you get there. That is the level of taqwa that we are aiming for, or we are hoping to get to. It's not a choice, it is a must to unlock that grounds which we are so unaware of right now. The grounds of blessings, the grounds of comfort of heart. With regards to what we should be keeping our eyes on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in that regard, and he said that وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاوَةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَكَ عَنْهُمْ تُرِيدُ زِينَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Keep yourself content with those who call their Lord morning and evening, seeking His pleasure, and let not your eyes overlook them. Meaning that the thing that helps with keeping our tongues, our ears, our eyes in place, in check, is through the company that we keep. It plays a world of a difference who we are surrounded with. The company that we keep helps us in securing these windows which can cause havoc in our hearts. If we are in the right company, or company of the righteous people, or like-minded people who also have the same worry as you do, and that is why it is so important to get your entire family on board in preparing for this month, because that is when you all together will work towards this, and you will remind yourself that look, we have to watch our eyes, we have to guard. We'll run out of battery, online people. If I run out of battery, then you will have to catch up on online the rest of the session. ठीक है? अभी तो पेट और हाथ पांव रहते हैं from the sins.
Is the session online?
I've run out of battery. So I can switch on my mobile, but then I won't be able to record. So आप लोगों के साथ ही आप रिकॉर्ड करके अगर वो है तो लोग चले गए होंगे, ट्राई करें. क्या कह रहा था मैं? I was saying how we can protect our eyes, tongues and ears. Another thing to keep in mind is what we eat. That has a lot of impact on our spirituality. And this is, we start protecting our eyes, we start protecting our ears, we start protecting our tongues, but we are very casual about what we eat. जो हम खाते हैं, that has a great impact on our spirituality. Let me make you understand this by this simple example. Once somebody presented a set of sweets to someone, and that person, he ate those sweets, and it turned out that the sweet was poisonous, and he just passed away. So in his defense, the person who had presented the sweets, he said, but I got them from the royal castle. So, these were the official sweets. How would I know that they were poisonous? But he said that, whether you got them from the royal castle or from the royal prison, they were poisonous, and you have ended up killing the person. So the end result is that the person got killed. With us, it is the same thing. How? That if we know that in the country, everything has been labeled as halal, and every meat and every source of chicken is halal, and now we just say that, the country says that, it is halal, we should eat it. It would be that the country is saying it halal, but the effect of eating that not so sure halal on our spirituality would still be there. It would kill us. As far as the ruling is concerned, it would be okay, but as far as the spirituality is concerned, that would kill us, that would destroy us. So what we eat and where we eat from has a lot of effect on our spirituality. And for that matter, again I will say that only focus on eating home cooked food. When we go and we eat in a restaurant where there's a picture of some idol hanging over there, some Rang Ganga is cooking our food, it will have an effect on your spirituality. It will have an effect on your spirituality. If you are having a food cooked by somebody who has made it bawudu while doing zikr, that food, compare a food cooked by a non-Muslim or a person who doesn't pray or a person who is, who's not in the state of purification, it will have an effect on that food. When it goes in you, there are different levels of effects. What kind of food it is, whether it is halal or haram in terms of it being cooked, whether it is being cooked in a halal or haram way, and then also who is cooking it. All of this has an effect. The food itself, how it is being cooked, and who is cooking it. All of this has an effect on your spirituality. And of course, with this is also a link to your source of income. Be mindful of what your source of income is, from which you are purchasing this food. Is there any element of haram in it? Is there any sood in it? Is there any interest in it? Is it based on interest-based earnings? All of these things matter. All of these things affect your spirituality. And they affect your spirituality to the extent that they can actually impact your iman. It's no longer just about Ramadan. It's actually what is at stake is your iman. So mindful of your ears, mindful of your eyes, mindful of your tongue, and mindful of what goes in your stomach. Alhamdulillah, the audience that I'm addressing, I'm hopeful that their hands and feet are in control. They are not going to go and harm and beat anybody. But your other two body parts which have an effect are your limbs, your hands, what you do with them, how you use them, what do you use them for. If you steal, if you beat somebody, if you hurt somebody, if you injure somebody, where you walk towards. Mindful of what am I walking to. Be thankful and be humble if you're walking to masjid, because this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leading you to that. And be concerned if you're walking into a cinema hall. Be concerned if you're walking into a concert. Be concerned if you're walking to do something towards where you know you would be sinning. The bottom line for all of this is what the word is: accountability. Hold yourself accountable. At the end of the day, every day from now till the start of Ramadan, spend some time thinking, where am I spending? How am I using my body parts? What did I do with my ears? What did I do with my eyes? What did I do with my tongue? What did I eat? Where did the money come from where I ate? What did my hands do? Where did my feet take me to? Or where did I make my feet go to? And then when you are consciously thinking about all these things, you will identify yourself many areas which you need to fix. And if you identify those areas where you have done wrong, do istighfar. Say sorry to Allah. And if there is somebody who you have hurt, say sorry to that person as well. Get your heart cleaned up. Remember, I said that the polish for all these black holes or all these punctures is tawbah, is to say sorry to Allah or to the person whom you have. And you can only start doing that if you do a muhasbah, if you hold yourself accountable. You need to hold yourself accountable. You need to hold yourself accountable. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to put this accountability in place. Guard your eyes, guard your ears, guard your tongues, guard your limbs. Know that anything that you do from them will have a direct impact on your heart. And your heart, if it's impacted, will not be able to retain the nur. Just keep on reminding yourself of that. We are here to retain the nur. That nur will bring us to that level of taqwa. If you're not retaining that nur, it's not going to get there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.